Yes,
I was writing that down.
yes. Okay, thank you. And any questions for Carolyn before she runs to get her child? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Through you, your worship, so you want me to put 20,000 in there as a reduction? That's what we're
I wouldn't
requesting.
yet. I wouldn't yet. I would let the board make that decision.
Do you want to put 8 then in?
Yes. Yes. Are we taking the break yet or not? You ready for a break? All right, let's come back at, do you want 5 after 5 or 10 after 5? Okay, 5 after 5. Okay, we are back. We've had a short recess. So we will continue on with the reductions. And that's you, Sherry.
Okay, so we are still in the Parks and Recreation. We're still in the Parks and Recreation area. And we're in that rec admin area, so, yeah, rec admin, Laura. The bottom three, number 27, 28, and 29 on the savings list.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll pick up there. Under the rec admin, our first reduction is relating to PD, personal development. Again, I will caution council here, this is not something that's been brought forward from other departments. We've already done a $2,100 reduction for this department. Yes, and that's in aquatics. So we could potentially, yes, we could do this as a cut, but if we kept that on, at least we could potentially massage, used Sherry's term, rob Peter to pay Paul if needed, for that, line item. It's still on the table. And then this one, I'll admit, line number 28, this one does get a little complicated because, I made an error in my department submission. And the error I didn't recognize until Chris had already printed the package, and it was gonna be too tricky for her to make that change. So what I had missed, there's two things that both of them are under the age friendly. So I had neglected to add $7,500 that we anticipate for the grant for the New Horizons to cover that seniors expo. And then I also forgot to add the $2,600 for the senior star. So they kind of somewhat net each other out to be a savings of $3,400. So that's a bit of a correction almost, if I could describe it that way. And the line number 29 was cancel printing our community guide. So we typically will have 4 editions a year. We do offer an online version as it is already. But we do typically print copies that we hand out at the P&H Center as well as here to our residents. And keep going, or do you want to pause there?
I
Pause there.
think maybe we just deal with this section, but the only one maybe we would, although not add in the rec admin section, but it kind of ties in because it would be shortly after here, was the day camp programs and the rates and fees reconsideration to decrease the net tax levy support as suggested by Councillor Cable. So maybe we could deal with these 3 plus that one right now, and then go on to your couple facility ones.
Councillor Cable?
Thank you. Laura, for the community guide, do we currently get sponsors? Like, are there people that purchase ads for that?
No, currently we do not.
Because I was thinking if we did have that, they probably would want a printed copy. How many copies do we print? Because it doesn't get mailed anymore, correct?
It does vary, because for example, our summer sessions are typically not as busy, typically as far as like swim lessons, for example. So the amounts vary. I know I have data. I don't necessarily have how much we printed, but the 4 issues, they average around. The prices are varying because it depends on how many we print, but to take a very quick average, it's probably about $1,200 for one issue.
Councillor Sacco?
Thank you, Your Worship. Laura, have you ever considered doing just 2 instead of 4? And with the savings there, I'm not, just a thought.
Yeah, actually, we have considered it, and it is something that that we're looking into. The one challenge that we do have with just doing 2 is kind of that timing. So for example, if we were to come out with our, picking that time of year to go, if we're gonna do one in the spring, does that include all of our summer camps and vice versa? Is staff got that content ready to be published? That would be the challenge that would create. But still the online version could fix that or could help in that area.
So with the printed copies, do you ever have any left over? Like, is there waste? I don't want to say waste, but
A little bit every now and again. And what we typically have done is we keep adjusting that. So we typically will always look, okay, how many did we do last year? How many did we do the year before, and adjust accordingly? But there isn't a lot of waste there. We actually have sold out. Yeah, we gotta go. It's just the alarm. Yeah, we'll have to go. They were grinding and it set off. It'll be just grinding.
Warren, the fire alarm has gone off, so we're taking a break.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting back to order, and for anyone that may be watching this, we did have the fire alarm go off in this building, and we followed the rules and left. So now we're back, and it was a false alarm. So, all right, so let's continue. And where are we? We're on the community guide.
Thank you, your worship. I believe I was about to just comment that there have been times that we have had to actually just print our own even. So it's not a matter of there being an excess of copies that we do print on a yearly basis. It is quite lean, and the demand is unknown as well. That's the other thing. But if I can maybe recommend, if we were to, what if we took that from 5,000 down to 2,500? Try to adopt the 2 times per year. We'll use that during our busier seasons, and then the other 2 times, if that staff can't fit that timing, there would still be that online option. So the guides would still be developed 4 times a year or produced 4 times a year, but would only be printed twice at 2,500.
What's the feedback you hear? Do people say, oh, I have to have a hard printed copy? Which I'm assuming is yes.
Yeah, it is very well received. The community does appreciate them, the printed copies, yes. A portion of our community, yes.
So thoughts, comments? Going down to 2 print, 2 hard copy and 4 online. Okay. Oh, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I support that dropping down to 2, leaving item 27, not accepting that cut. And so it would be 2,500 plus 3,400 would be the total cuts.
Okay. Is that it for,
Okay, so I'll carry on then.
okay, yes.
I think the only other one would be the day camp piece, which we added
Oh,
based on
of course.
Counselor Cable's note.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So I was looking at the numbers based on, it's what Chris was discussing. I'm on page 103 of the printed binder, which would be page 115 of the electronic package. And so it would look to me, if I was just looking at the actual expenses for the program, so I was adding up like program activities, contract staff, staff training development, general supplies and equipment, and then the 64,500 part-time salaries. That gets us to around 110-ish thousand. And so I guess if I wanted it to be somewhat more break even, I would really just want to see that our general registrations would go up about another $5,000-ish. I'm fine to leave it as is, but I would like to see us continue to work towards kind of the offset between the fee that's paid and the cost to operate the program. And I guess I would also note that last year we approved a budget where it was $31,000 offset by taxes to run the camp, and now we're approving one that's $34,900 to run. So our tax subsidy is increasing.
I think the option you proposed of an increase of the registrations by 5,000 to make that 109,600 is probably a good alternative, Laura. Given that you brought in 115 this year. Again, realizing when we increase like that, we're more increasing based on hitting our maximum numbers, and there is risk that if you do not, then you will be under your projected revenues. Hopefully then some of your expenses are under as well to offset accordingly, but $5,000 is certainly an amicable option there.
Okay. So that's it for that section.
Just to reiterate for recommend, that's 10,900. 5,000 for day camps, 3,400 for removing the senior expo grant funding not reflected, and the 2,500 on the guide.
Okay,
And then I believe my only other item here is relating to that Clockworks cleaning that I've talked about earlier. That's line number 31. And that is for $5,000. This is relating to the clock itself. It's some of the mechanisms are getting a little bit gummed up, and this would be have to have a specialist come in, take some sections apart, clean, degrease, put it back together. And so this isn't just something that, you know, we could have our facility operator do because of the complexity of the Clockworks mechanisms. So this would be bringing in a third-party contractor to do that.
has it been cleaned before? Never.
No, that's why it's it's should have been done probably years ago, potentially.
Counselor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Laura. I think we need to leave that in. I think the clock tower is a big part of our heritage and a big part of our downtown. So I think we need to look after our clock tower.
Counselor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought Stu Lamont was going to take on that project. Did he decide against it?
Mr. Lamont did bring the project forward, saying it needs to be done, but he's not able to complete that, unfortunately. No.
Counselor Sackel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Laura, who are you looking at to clean that? Did someone give you a price? That price of 5?
Yeah, this is definitely something where we may be in a situation depending on, so we haven't hired anybody, obviously. We've been looking at options. Finding someone to do it is being a challenge. Will 5,000, hopefully that is enough. You know, obviously we can structure the project so that it is within that budget. So if the whole thing can't be completed, you know, if it needs to be divided into phases, that could be an option, but we certainly can keep it in that 5,000 with that option.
Through Your Worship, I have a friend who lives in town who works with clocks, but a clock of that size, I'm not sure about. I'm just wondering if,
Please pass along that contact information. That would be great.
all right. I
Thank you.
will.
And I'm sure there's other municipalities that have clock towers that may know of people that do this. Okay. Is that it for you, Laura?
I think so. So that's a no for that, then I'm hearing, correct?
Right.
Okay. Other than April, EDC is the next one. And then I have a few others that are on the list that are kind of general, but we'll deal with April's list and then go from there.
Okay, thank you. So as you'll see on the list, and as noted earlier, 2025 would prove to be a planning year. So on here, we have a cultural plan update and then doing a downtown revitalization plan. So just basing these budget numbers off the previous work that was done to come to those amounts. And then we do sponsor both holiday spring and holiday shop and wins with the Chamber and DIA at $2,500 each. So just putting that in there that we could discuss reducing that slightly or eliminating sponsorship of one. That's an option as well. So I think at this point, like, I think we're still working our cultural plan and like I could see deferring that at this point because you know, we do activate the cultural plan as it is, and I think I know a lot of what would come out of that plan, which would incur more, financial implications. So, I do think we're getting some momentum with the downtown revitalization plan. I think it's been noted a few times how important that is. So, I would like to see something stay in for that. If it's not this amount, then we can see what we can do with less. I was just thinking of bringing a third party in because of all the stakeholders that we would be managing through this process, and just to have that third party listening and responding and offering input. But there are other options of some downtown revitalization we can work that we can do, essentially utilizing OMAF resources, which they have established downtown revitalization program. So we could start to work that too. And that would just take human resources at this point.
So what's the years on the cultural plan right now? It went to,
Well, we developed it in 2019. So so basically we started implementing it in 2020.
okay. And the last time the revitalization for downtown was done?
Oh, that was 2015.
So I remember sitting in the former Fields Byway
Yeah.
where we had a meeting in there. So that's a while ago.
Right. And okay, so that plan is very infrastructure heavy. So we've had a hard time implementing that plan because of the costs associated with it. I'm of the belief right now that we have to identify actions. Like, yes, it's nice to have all those infrastructure improvements when we have time or money to do that, or if there's other work being done that we could put that on top. But I personally just really have identified the need for us to streamline all of our activities, all the downtown stakeholders, getting them to work together, and then building that plan of events and promotions and other like capital improvements when time permits, but not be so capital focused. You know what I mean?
Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with what April's saying. You know, remove the cultural. I think the downtown revitalization with the incoming completion of the 10th Street project, 10th and 7th Ave. I think that's a good one to keep. And I also think we should keep the sponsorship for the holiday shop and win. So I think removing the $20,000 would be my direction.
Okay. Other comments? Councillor Hudson, then our CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering about reducing the sponsorship of the Holiday Shop and Win to once a year. I'm not so convinced that people are paying attention to that so much anymore. A lot of the stores that actually participate don't promote it. And it's been ongoing for many years. I think it's just lost its pizzazz, and that perhaps something else could replace that.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. I think, so I think that really speaks to the need for a downtown revitalization plan so that we can review what's all happening and introduce new ideas and ways to grow these things. Totally. I guess I would just say, from my perspective, I think it would be better to reduce our sponsorship of the two promotions versus eliminating one, because then we're still showing that we're a partner with the DIA and Chamber, and we're supporting promoting Hanover as a whole through their advertising and all that stuff. So I think they would be more understanding if we just said, you know, we're just going to reduce that sponsorship a bit, and that might affect overall marketing, but we're still a partner, and we still want to work with you on this.
Councillor, oh, sorry. Sherry had a comment, and then Councillor Hockey.
Just On the downtown revitalization plan, just, our council rep, Councillor Fleet, I think this is a good opportunity for you to take some of these comments to the DIA and share those. And not only that, we mentioned it at the Economic Development Committee meeting last week, and the DIA and chamber reps were there, and just that we really need our chamber and DIA to also support this downtown revitalization plan. And we haven't budgeted for them to be contributors, but hopefully they will be contributors.
Thank you, Sherry. And April, she gave me a list of certain things that you're going to be doing in your department, and I've presented it to the DIA, and the revitalization, excuse me, was one of the options that you had on that list. So they're aware of that. So yes, I'll work with them. Thank you.
Councillor Hawking.
Since Councillor Harold took my points. No, I just want to comment on April's position. In my first term, I was on the community improvement, was it plan or no, it was partnership. That was it. We had the three of us together. And for various reasons, we dissolved that. But I've always believed that you need the three working together, and I support Sherry's position 100%, where the DIA and the chamber would work with us to help fund that revitalization. So I'm wondering if we could maybe put that down to let's see, what is it right now? 25,000, drop it to 15,000 and ask for a 5,000 contribution from the chamber and the DIA as full partnership in the downtown revitalization, you know what I mean?
We got it.
Yeah.
Would that work for the 2025 year to ask the chamber and the DIA, or would it have to be for 2026?
Excuse me. Oh, like for them to incorporate it in their budgets, you mean? Yeah, I'm not sure where they are in the process of their own budgets, but I would assume that they might be able to find a contingency.
Chris, I think our budgets, the DIA budget's been already submitted, is it not? Oh, okay.
No, I told them it had to be by the beginning of December for their presentation on December 9th. I gave them their template. I haven't seen anything since.
She sent it out for review. That's why I wondered if we had received it. So, and JD usually does a presentation, does he not? But will he be doing? Yeah. Anyways, we're not meeting in December. I don't think the DIA, they're taking the month off, so it'd be into the new year. So unless we can communicate from this end with Cindy, with the chamber and DIA, I don't know where they'll go with it. I have a feeling I know where they'll go with it, but anyway, I'll keep that to.
Was it in their draft budget? If I can just add, I like your suggestion, Councillor Hawking, because I agree they need to be partners in this. However, if they're not going to be partners in this and we budget based on 15,000 and they need to contribute at 5 each and they don't, then we will either move forward with only a $15,000 amount that we can spend on that, which is an option, I guess. But again, I really think those two need to be partners in this.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would suggest that we go with the 15,000, give April an opportunity to consult with them. And if they don't do it, then defer to the following year.
So would it be April, or would it come from this council?
Well, whoever.
It should be from us. It's our budget discussion. So. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree it would be great to have both partners on board to help contribute. I'm wondering, is it fair for us to ask for them to contribute and then for us to turn around and not contribute for the other initiative that is through the DIA. Like, I wonder if it's, maybe we should stay with our regular contribution for the holiday shop and win, and then we're going out and asking for the contribution towards the plan.
It does send a message that we are looking for reductions. Like, it's not like we're, you know, one hand doing one thing and the other hand doing, like we're saying, we're looking for savings and we need their support. April?
Right, could as well. So if it's not monetary, it certainly needs to be human resources that they contribute. You know what I mean? Like, I have found when partnering in the past, it's difficult to get everyone to the table, right? And I fear that if they're not a partner from the beginning and contributing to this, that they won't own it. You know what I mean? Because they'll feel like they're being told. So like, that's how I would position it, is because I know they're very limited for human resources because they are, you know, driven by volunteers and have a part-time secretary. So if they could financially contribute, I think, because I'm looking at this a few ways. If we get a third party, yeah, we're getting like a consultant, we're doing a plan. So we're paying for that. They're contributing, they're engaged the whole process. If not, we have to go through that more, like that free route, I guess I could say, is like going through OMAFA and using their framework. However, that's very human resource driven. Like, we need volunteers, we need people to help, because there's surveying components, there's analyzing what we've done, you know what I mean? So like, that's the way I view this. It's either like really human resource heavy, or it's financial investment that we could hire people to help us with this. So maybe if we could present it that way to them, and maybe that'll help with that process.
Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Worship. I don't want this to come across that we are trying to save money and this is why we're asking. Like, to me, this is a high priority. When we did the strategic plan, it was identified that we have a need in our downtown core. And so if it's 25,000, it's 25,000. Like, to me, this is the priority item that we need to get done so that we can actually move forward with what is going to happen in Hanover's downtown core. So having a financial contribution from the DA and chamber as a buy-in, to me, would be fantastic. But I wouldn't want it to be pitched as we're trying to save costs, so we're looking for you to chip in.
I think we need to go on the angle is it's not, we're trying to save costs. To me, this is the DIA demonstrating their commitment with either financial contribution or human resources, but we would, you know, obviously financial is preferred. So that it is a demonstrated partnership. Like, you know, the downtown should not just be Town of Hanover driven. This needs to be DIA and chamber. This is a perfect initiative that the DIA, and honestly, they should be leading in some ways. And we support and partner. We can lead and we can move it forward. But if they're not willing to be a partner, what does that mean about implementation? We've got to. So I agree with Mayor Sue. This ask is not April Marshall asking. This is Mayor Sue going to a meeting, or myself, and setting the stage for the ask. And again, if they've got to see the merit in moving forward for their organization and the town as a whole.
Councillor Fleet?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what Sherry's saying, and I think it needs to be a partnership between the town and the chamber and the DIA. And how should I word this? They seem to want, I just sit on DIA, there's no council rep and chamber, but it seems to be the same people that have the same way of thinking. Their thoughts are, they don't want to go out of the box. This is what we've done in the past, this is what we want to do. And they're a volunteer group. And they have trouble. I know DIA has trouble finding people to sit on the DIA. So I don't know what chambers like. I don't know what chambers numbers are like, or, you know, but I'd like to see DI chamber as one.
Councillor Hawking has a comment.
Thank you. I support Councillor's Cable's position that this is a high priority. However, it's a high priority for our total community, not just for the town of Hanover. It's in our strategic plan, but if we drive the bus, we may not get passengers on the bus because it's a town of Hanover plan through, they're going to show up. But I think they have to initiate a positive response. Hey, listen, if right at the onset, they say, oh, no, we're not keen. So why would we go through the exercise if they're not a willing partner? And you show your willingness by making a contribution. We're picking up the major part of this new project. So I'm of the ilk that if they don't buy in with a financial contribution and a willingness, April is just spinning her wheels, going through an exercise that there's not going to be a buy-in. End of story. Thank you.
Okay, so we're at the 15,000. Okay, nodding heads. Okay,
Just to reiterate, we had 25,000 there. We're reducing it by $10,000 so that it's 15,000. So the actual impact is $10,000 reduction. Right? And you're keeping the culture plan of 20,000 in? That's what I mean. So that's a 20,000
Yep.
savings
Yep.
and the 2,500. So the
I
three of
don't think we've
those-
decided on the 2,500. I'm kind of hearing we keep it. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, I
go
don't
ahead,
think so. I thought
Councillor
it-
Hawking.
I think that when you pull a program that involves other partners, you just don't pull it at a budget meeting without consulting with them first. So I would say, as a signal of good faith and a willingness to entice them to become involved, we leave that in for another year.
Is that a yes? Am I seeing nodding heads and not? Okay, so it's in. I'm seeing more nodding heads than not, so yes.
$3,000 reduction. Yeah, I know, Tanya. I knew you were going to say that to me.
So we're at 30,000 for the economic development. That's 20,000 for the cultural plan update and removing the downtown revitalization plan by 10,000.
Okay, launch pad support. That was noted previously in our conversations around level of support. So you wanted that added to the list. It's been added to the list. We seek your direction on where you lie with that.
Who's that?
This is staying for her own interest's sake, correct, Melissa?
Yes, and potential around some of these other conversations.
That's fine. I was just gonna say if you had one item, we could let you go and, okay. Deputy Mayor,
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for bringing this forward. I look back at the MOU that we signed with Launchpad back in April, and one of the items there was for them to move towards self-sustainability. I think that it's time for us to honor that agreement. So I'm not suggesting we remove total support, but I do think we do need to send the message that that is our expectation. So, you know, I'm suggesting a $10,000 or $20,000 cut to that budget.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. You think I'd know by now, but I have flipped back and forth on my position on this, and I thought it was only appropriate for me to write down my thoughts on the launch pad. So if you bear with me, it might take me 5 minutes to get through this. Town councils have a mandate to provide services and programs that deal with public safety, library, arts and culture, roads, water, sewage, fire protection, garbage removal, and we saw them all tonight. In the total scheme of programs and services, I have differentiated them as hard services and soft services. Hard services are those that are absolutely necessary, for example, water, sewage, public safety, adequate roads, etc. Soft services are those that require subsidy from the municipality. To expect soft services to break even is totally impractical and impossible because of the nature of those programs. Collectively, the soft services help to define what we call our quality of life of our community. And they also play an essential ingredient in the economic health and development of our community. In my opinion, and it's solely my opinion, the initial expectation for the launch pad to be revenue neutral or revenue generating was flawed. This program, designed specifically for our community youth, falls under the category of what I call a soft service. It's no different than our library services, no different than our recreation. We as a council expect these soft services to provide programs and services in an efficient and effective manner as to minimize the total subsidy. I am the first to acknowledge there needs to be fundamental changes at the launch pad, but I do not support the idea that it serves no purpose for our youth and should be scrapped or changed due to ongoing financial stresses. Let me list some positive aspects of the launch pad. The town's HIP apprentice retention and attraction campaign designed with leveraging Launchpad as an asset to promote the pathways to apprenticeship and a career in the skilled trades, working with OEM and other skilled trade organizations. Providing skill development training as an introduction to our youth before entering high school, grade 6 to 8, so they can explore their interests and know what their interests and are prior to selecting courses in high school. Provided on-demand opportunities for skill development for our youth. Support our employers and growing demands for skilled workers. Bruce Power expansion, DGR. In the next 16 to 24 months, there's going to be a great demand for those skilled workers and also for the expansion of Honda. Leveraging partnerships with our local unions, utilizing the space for community outreach is an opportunity for Launchpad clients to access placement with them. Another positive is working closely with the employers to respond to their upskilling and training needs and current and future workforce. The Launchpad is an opportunity to complement what's happening at schools and provide an opportunity and further training for those who are not attending high school. This is suggested by working with community colleges on dual credit programs and providing access for private and homeschooled students as well. At our November the 8th council meeting, Savannah Myers, Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Council, reiterated, and I want to state, reiterated her support for the Launchpad and stated that they, Grey County, will partner with the Launchpad to expand the pipeline to education and employment, facilitate connections with Grey Bruce makers, and to bring services from the Business Enterprise Center and Georgian College's Henry Bernick Entrepreneurship Center to Hanover. That was a very, very important statement. This was also highlighted at the countywide inaugural Economic Development Leadership Forum where I attended, where representatives from all 9 municipalities of Grey County heard Savannah repeat that same statement. This is an outstanding opportunity, a time to move forward, a time to not reflect on the past, moving forward for the Launchpad and support our commitment to build strong, forward-looking community. I am supporting the Launchpad's budgetary request, and I believe it would be short-sighted at this time with all of the potential skilled developing employment 18 to 24 months down the road to cancel this program when new opportunities are on the horizon. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hawking. Any other discussion, comments? Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks for your comments, Councillor Hawking. I too was at the Leadership Forum for Grey County last week, and one of the comments that rings true for me is the idea of looking to the future. I think many of us are looking at now, today, and bills, but we do have to look at the future. And as Councillor Hawking mentioned, this is going to be a different place in another 10 years. They talked about Bruce Power and the medical isotopes. They talked about the potential for the DGR. Training people and working with Sydenham College in Owen Sound is going to be something we need to do. Does Launchpad have more work to do? They definitely do. They have to talk to these employers in the area, find out what the training is, what kind of apprenticeships do they need? What can we do to help them? I think we have so much potential. Let us use that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Hawking, just, was there any financial mention dollar wise from Grey County, or no financial?
All they did. I asked the question, and I think I asked the question here. Grey County sponsors the Sydenham campus to a tune of $250,000 a year, and that's Grey County's subsidy. However, I guess, no, I got nothing else to say.
I don't remember if it was here or last Thursday, but Savannah did mention that there was a time when their Business Enterprise Center used the Launchpad to provide some of their programs. They see that resuming. That hasn't happened since COVID. Again, that's what I heard. Again, I don't know if it was last Monday night or last Thursday, but she definitely commented that they envisioned using, there was no straight, here's $20,000 to put towards Launchpad. Does that mean we couldn't ask? We could. And that's perhaps something that Launchpad, with the support of the town, should be pursuing.
If I may, I think I interpreted her comments to say we're reaching back to the Launchpad, and we're going to build a relationship that helps foster more development of Launchpad as we meet the demands in the future. Councillor Sacco's right on. I mean, what we heard last Thursday, we are in the midst of an explosion, and I mean that quite literally with, and I mentioned Honda with the new EV battery and then what that's going to spin off, and Bruce Power, they're going to be having Unit C with the fact that we're moving to a electricity-based economy. That's a no doubt. And just down south to Miami, what that will bring us. So we are in an inevitable position of having a Launchpad set up. I'm repeating myself. Have we made mistakes? Yes, we have. But I think with a strong tie to Grey County's economic development and tourism, and the fact that they see us as a vital cog in their operation, will only help. And I don't think I would be remiss by saying that there will be money, because there won't, but there'll be, I think, lots of support from staff to help mobilize this into a viable unit that will meet the demands in the future.
Councillor Fleet, did you have your hand? No. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to be clear, I'm not saying not to support it at all. I'm just suggesting we need to move in the direction that we agreed to based on the MOU.
April?
Thank you. I just want to add, the leadership forum at Grey County last week was great, extraordinary. It was awesome. A lot of great messaging. But one of the biggest messages that I took out of that day was that we do not have enough people in our area to fill the jobs that we have. A big piece of that, we have a very aging population. We need to attract more people, and we need to train people. We need to stop sending people out of our rural areas to urban centers to get trained. because a lot of them don't come back. Georgian College was at that session. We were talking about how do we create this regional ecosystem so that we're all feeding each other and we're not driving people out of our communities, that we're actually attracting them in, and we're telling employers we're supporting them and we're upskilling. So like that was a huge message taken out of that day. So when we're talking about forward thinking, like that is what Launchpad is responding to right now. Because we have changed the business model. We changed the focus to be more skilled, trade developed, focused. And I strongly feel like we do have the support of the county. I know it's not financial right now, but I think as we get out of this situation we're in, we're more positive. We have more stories to share. We have that data. I think those dollars will start to follow, but Launchpad does need the time right now. And just as far as Deputy Mayor Dickert, I appreciate your comments, and I think it's okay to set a timeline to this. Like, that's what I would propose. We know that Launchpad is essentially, we have a lot of debt to repay right now. So by reducing the town's contribution at this point it could be crippling, right? There's a lot of impacts to that. To honor the MOU and to honor the original, I guess, narrative around what these funds mean, I could see us saying, yes, you know, if Launchpad could have till 2026, we have this contributions. And at that time, we can really start to say, okay, now we're putting that plan in place after our debt's repaid to start reducing those annual contributions. But I do firmly believe Launchpad needs this time right now because we have done a lot of work to reorganize. It's just not it's not realized yet. And it does need a little bit more time. Because I just don't want to you know what I mean? If it's reducing now, it's just going to have a further impact down the road.
Okay. Any other, Counselor Cable?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I guess just to clarify where we're at, so in the current budget, it has a proposed contribution of 65,800. And then is it correct that that amount will be reduced by whatever the 2024 deficit is at year end? For next year? Is that, I guess I want to be able to take back to the board, what is our stance on the 2024 deficit? Because I know that we said that we were not going to defer the loan payment. So where they're at is where they're at. But are we encouraging Launchpad to go and try to seek a loan from someone else that then we have no control over? Or are we saying we're going to take off whatever your deficit is from the 65.8 and that's the contribution that you get for next year?
I would say that's entirely up to council, what they want to do. That 65.8 plus the 34.2 equals the 100,000 because they're paying back our portion of the loan from the 2022. So 2024 was the first payment, 34.2 in 2025, and another 34.2 will reduce it, which then would put the transfer to Yahtzee back up to $100,000 in 2027. The combination of those two equal 100,000 for the town contribution. It would be up to council to decide. All right, now when we go in our financial statements, we're going to see that Launchpad still has a $48,000 deficit, 30,900 from previous year, and right now they're at a 17,000. Unless they get more monies coming in, I don't know how many more revenues they're going to come in. Right now, you're at overall in 2024, you're short $17,200. You add that to the previous year's deficit of $30,900 that's come forward because we didn't pay for that. This $100,000 loan or 97,000 loan that we gave them was from 2022. 2023 has 30,900 already. It's brought forward to 2024 already. $30,930. At the time when we first did it, it was only $99,930 shortfall, but there was a 30,000 discrepancy in some sort of grant that they received. So they took the money, didn't do the work, and then they were asking for the report, and it was like, oh, we didn't do this one yet. So that's why the 30,000 came back onto the books in 2023, because it was put as revenue in 2022 when it shouldn't have been. So instead of them being 97,000 short in 2022, it should have been 127 that they were short. Because at 30,000 should not have been counted as revenue because they didn't use it for the grant. I guess they got the grant late in November, didn't say anything, and next thing you know, the money's there and it's wiping out some of the debt. So we've given them a loan for 97,000. They've paid 3,300 or 33,000, I should say, this year. Then 34,000 in 2025 and another 34,000 in 2026. That 100,000 or close to $100,000 we gave them would be wiped out. However, they brought forward from 2023 a deficit of 30,900. That's over and above the money that we already borrowed for them. They're going to have another deficit in 2024 of almost 17,200 as of today. You put that together, they're already at 48,000. Their loan outstanding is 63,000. So they're already at $111,000 shortfall as of today, $111,000. So if you close the doors, who's paying that $111,000? The town is going to be paying that. No, that's not.
I'm wondering if, similar to other organizations, that apply for funding through the town, if that's essentially what's happening here, I'm wondering if we would want to see a budget come back. I guess I'm worried that, so yes, we're at whatever, it might be 47,000 now, plus this other accumulated deficit. What is the plan? Like, so I'm wondering, can we bring back a budget so that we can actually make sure that this is accounted for in a realistic way to move forward, right? Or whether council is prepared to say, we're wiping this one again and now we're clean, right? Like if this is the amount, I just don't think we want to go and send them out to get a loan from someone else. And then we have no control over who those funds are owed to.
This is no different than what happened in 2012 to 2015 for the police. They were always over budget. They were short 150,000 one year, short 200,000 next year. Town covered everything, says they were a town department. And now any surpluses they have, they get to keep that and send it back to their own reserves because they're now budgeting properly. It took them about 4 years to get it right because we had that removal of the dispatch and there was a lot of compensation required for the next 3 years that future budgets were covering. So pretty well the same boat they're in. But at that point, council said, okay, we'll cover the deficit through our general reserves. That's one thing you could do and just wipe them clean and say, you got a year to get your act in gear. We cover everything. So you're talking $111,000 that we're going to wipe out the loan, wipe out the deficit, start at 0 for 2025. And if they can't make a go of it, then you've got there's no reason to say that, oh, I'm behind because of my deficit and stuff like that. That's a one-time reprieve you can give them. There's no outside borrowing. But again, that's a big commitment from the town to say that we're going to give you $111,000. We're going to clear your loan out and we're going to clear out any deficits you bring forward to the end of this year. And starting 2025, your budget better balance or you're not getting any more money from the town. And at that point, you would say, if you're at a deficit at the end of 2025, no more money, Launchpad closes. That's kind of what you can do. Because right now you're just doing a Band-Aid fix and every year you're behind the 8 ball. It's like taking those payday loans that people say, and then you bring your loan in and you're just giving them 20% more and more and more. So you want to go to 0, clear it out if you can. This is what you have done in the past, as I might say, for both library and both police. And both of those organizations are thriving because they both have 300,000 for library and reserves and over 700,000 for the police and reserves.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you. I'm just going to repeat a point I made that I think it's probably unfair to the Launchpad to expect them to be revenue neutral or even revenue generating when you look at the nature of the program. And I think it's incumbent upon the council to treat this like any other program that we give money to, like the library. We give, what was it? I forget how much money that $700,000 that we're giving so that the library can function. This is a soft service. It's a program that is geared to the youth. It's geared to future skill development. It's geared to be a willing partner with Grey County Now involvement. I think for this council to harness the launch pad with a debt that will just force them to in a negative way should not be right now. I think it's time to, as April said, they know what they did wrong. There's no point in going over and rehashing that. But let's not harness them with a debt that's just going to hamper their overall ability to succeed and become, as Christine said, an organization that builds on successive years of a positiveness and a contribution that they then will become self-fulfilling. I mean, they have a debt, a rental fee of $60,000 a year that they're faced with. And I mentioned the last time, the one in Ingersoll, the municipality gave them a school, a school, no charge. So right away, they were not harnessed with an expenditure that would infringe upon their overall development. So I think we need, as a council, to give them another opportunity, to support them as much as we possibly can. And at the end of the day, after they've done their functional changes, we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. I guess my question is, how many years do we get? This is 10 years. $111,000. If they were a business on their own and they dealt at a local bank and they had that loan of $111,000, I know what the bank would do. I don't feel the town should be the bank for Launchpad. I support Launchpad. I've donated to Launchpad, but it gets to a point like, is the next council going to be sitting here in 10 years going, well, we'll give them another 5 years? I'm sorry, I can't write off their debts. So.
Councillor Hawking.
I'd like to counter that argument by saying, so you don't want to support a youth-based program, I guess. This program is essential for our youth in our community. And would you say to the library, I'm not going to give you 700,000. Go out and get your own, make it pay. There's a point in a council's soul that they have to pay for social service related programs at the expense. And it's just unfair for you to say you got to be revenue positive or no cost to us, or I'm going to support the swim programming. I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to support ICE and all of that, but I won't support a program that's definitely designed to help youth and in skill development and an age where this is going to be essential for the whole Grey Bruce area. And if you saw the data or the demographics that was given at this workshop last week, where we are 40% of the population in Grey Bruce is over 60 years of age, and it's not being replaced by another 40%. We need to attract people to this area, or we are going to be, you talk about councils in the future who are going to be struggling with their budgets when they don't have, because they don't have the resources or the people because they've all moved out because they didn't have the support to stay in their local communities through skill development. So I'm just saying, give them another year, let them work with Grey County. I know, Harold, they've been on their own, they've been isolated, they've been trying as hard as they can. And yes, they haven't been successful to the point that it doesn't come back to a support of the community. But you throw $1 million out and say, forget about it, shut her down, and don't give them an opportunity to succeed. I say, give them an opportunity with their whole new focus that April and their board is about to engage.
Counselor Fleet,
Thank you, Your Worship. Dave, my wife and I have financially contribute to Launchpad. We've always supported Launchpad. I've always supported youth. I'm going to make a donation to the Splash Pad, which I have. I'm going to be making, and I support any type of youth program. But I'm going to ask Counselor Sacco, Counselor Cable, and April, what are how many youth are part of Launchpad? How many youth are enrolled in Launchpad?
I have some numbers to share with you. I do want to recognize that has been part of the issue since inception is the data sharing and the storytelling. And that is what we are trying to correct. I'm going to share these numbers, but I also want to preface it by saying that we're not at full capacity. So, you know, we've had some other limitations that we can't speak about in open forum. But you know, we haven't been to full capacity. Okay, so essentially from January 1st to May 31st, we have, this was from the previous delegation brought to council. There was 52 rentals, 35 programs. There was 248 youth participating in those programs. Our projections for November to December is having 379 individuals in the building through programs and rentals. Since 2021, we have had 506 registered users of Launchpad, with 150 of them being from Hanover, so that's 30%. We had, of that number, 1,094 have participated in programs. At 2024, essentially where we're sitting is we have 123 registrants, and 46% of those are from Hanover. So we know from previous years as well, we've impacted, can say we've impacted thousands of youth, we can. And anyways, I just want to share, like, the impact is there. I know that the storytelling has not been good. I know the communication piece has fallen, and that's what we're trying to correct right now. So the opportunity is there. It really is. It's just, and we have the mechanisms in place to really start to implement this now. We have our, you know, we're getting up to our staffing complement, and there is an impact there. And I just want everyone to realize that, you know, I'm speaking from my economic development hat, with the workforce needs that we have, and just realizing this is at us not at full steam at all, what the impacts could be later.
There's really no actual numbers at this moment of how many like enrolled at this time, like right now.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that question though,
Okay.
because it's based off the programs that are running at a specific time.
At this, how many youth are enrolled at Launchpad? Just how many are enrolled at this time, actively enrolled at Launchpad?
236.
so something we need to consider, if Launchpad, whatever the number was, Chris, is over $100,000 in debt right now. If we reduce the amount we're going to give to Launchpad, or even cut the amount, we absorb that 100,000 right off the bat. It is ours. Plus, that 100,000 will increase because we all know there are more expenses when you shut something down. So we're looking at more than 100,000. If we reduce it and that donation and harness them so that they do not have any ability to run the programs, again, we're absorbing that 100,000. Like, there's no way we can get that 100,000 back if we limit their ability to run at capacity. So I would be in favor of wiping that debt clean, giving them to the end of 2025 with a hard, this is it. If you come in with a deficit, it's done. There will be no support. We'll start winding it down, and that will come from us. And go from there. Like, we know there's benefits there. It's unfortunate that Launchpad, there's been issues, there's been things happening over the years that are continually building up. But if we give them one more year, wipe the debt clean, as Chris said, we've done it with other departments, and they are doing very well now. We're supporting youth in our community and working with Grey County. And I think Grey County, through Savannah, realizes that we are very close to this facility not running, and they want to see it running. We are part of that, what does she call it? The network, right? Between Sydenham campus, what's it called in Bruce County? Sparks, and Launchpad here in Grey County. My thoughts. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Chris, just, you made reference to the police service back when the dispatch was dissolved. As I was kind of involved back at that point in time, I thought that was internal borrowing. I didn't think they relieved them of any of that debt. I thought that was internal borrowing. Was it not?
3 years was internal borrowing, then the 1 year it was well over 200,000 because they still had 3 years of borrowing that they had to start. So that 1 year we removed the 200, I think it was 226 or something like that. We just absorbed it that year. But the previous loans was repayment over 3 years that started 2 years after, kind of like we did with Launchpad. He gave them the money 1 year, didn't make them pay the next year until the following budget so that we could get through the continuation of wages and benefits for those 2 to 3 years that we had with the dispatch winding down. I'd have to pull up my information. I gave it to Sherry, that information that time. Because at one time they had no reserves, and then how they got up to $1 million in less than 6 years since then because of the way things were done.
Yeah, but it's a good portion of that was not just written off. It was an internal loan that through many changes made within the service, they were able to.
Yeah, internal loan that eventually increased their request from the town so that they could repay back those loans.
Right. Okay,
In a
thank you.
roundabout way, right? Because let's face it, we're 98% of all the revenue that goes into the police department.
Okay. What thoughts? Comments? Where would that money? Talk about the funds. Talk.
We can take it from general reserves. We can take it from the TCA reserve fund. You may remember the 380,000 money that was earmarked for nothing that was for the West Ontario Power. And I had transferred it to our TCA reserve fund to do that. I don't like to use the reserve funds if at all possible. But let's see what we have at the end of this year. If we have a surplus, let's wipe it out with any surplus we may have. So not transfer anything there, or it will come from general reserves. That's where the loan is to them right now. So right now they owe $63,405, say, on the loan. Starting in 25, they owe that, and 26. So that wipes out the loan that we gave them. What else is outstanding is the deficit from 2023 that came forward, that $30,900, and whatever the deficit for this year is. And right now it's at 17,200. So their deficit that we have not covered yet is 48,000. It will drop out at the bottom on the town. It'll say we have a deficit of 48,000 for Launchpad. Then you add the 63,405 there. Let me just see there. And that's where I come up with a 111,534 as of today, but we got to know there's going to be more than that. unless they bring in more revenue somehow. Hopefully they don't bring in grants and forget to tell us that they're to be used.
Sorry, your worship, may I? I do want to point out, I don't want us to forget that we have that skill development fund application in. Like if that's realized in 2025, like that's gonna solve all of our problems right now. It really is. So I don't know how everybody feels about like or maybe I shouldn't be throwing out offers here, but I just don't know if we can like help support operations of Launchpad through the end of 2025, and then we can really financially look at this, like what we were able to achieve in 2025 and go from there.
As long as there was not a deficit at the end of 2025. Right. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just need to go back again and say, my suggestion wasn't cutting them off. My suggestion was reducing. And that in turn gives them that opportunity to work towards getting their plans together. They can prove to us by the end of 2025 that they do have a plan that's going to work. That's fine. We can continue. None of the suggestion I made was to eliminate it totally. And we seem to have gone down a path here where we're saying, you know, if we eliminate it totally, that's the end of Launchpad. That's not what I said. I said to reduce it. It sends a very strong message that we do expect them to put their act together. It gives them the opportunity to do it. And I stand behind that suggestion, and, you know, I'll respect whatever my fellow councilors vote on here.
So I almost got the look from Tanya there. I didn't turn my microphone on. So we have two options or two suggestions here. One is to wipe the debt with a hard end at the end of 2025. If they come in with a deficit, we will work to closing it down from our end. The other one is to reduce. Deputy Mayor Dickert is saying to reduce that funding of that 65,000 even lower. So I'm not going to comment on that because I'm suggesting something. Other comments? Councillor Cable.
I wonder if regardless of which option is chosen, if we could have some kind of an agreement where we've got the budget is coming back so that we can see all of council can see the 2025 budget. And then if we have some clear targets, I know that I think when Julia was here, there was some KPIs that were kind of mentioned, but if we could have, what are the clear targets that we will know whether this was a success in 2025? How many youth, how many programs, what are those actual benchmarks that we want to see, right, in 2025?
If that's possible, that's a good idea. If they can do that.
Like right now, it's pretty vague, right? Like
Right. But I'm wondering if they're in flux and they're not making these plans because they don't know what's going on. They don't know if they're going to be sustainable or not.
But the budget will have to be based off of a certain number of program participants and a certain number of programs and.
Perhaps we leave the budget in EDC as 100,000, and that's our donation for 2025. And when they come back with their budget at that point, we can see what their direction is. And then at that point, council can make the decision whether you wipe the debt or how you want to move forward with it. Keep in mind that Councillor Hawking has already said that it can't be sustainable. Maybe our 100,000 is the way to keep the boost. So that's our 100,000 contribution, which has been the same now for 10 years. We have not increased that whatsoever, but they should be able to handle the balance of that. So basically every year you're giving them 10 or 100,000, and hopefully one year you can drop it down to 90,000, and that would be your maximum contribution over every year because it's not sustainable, like it's a department.
But if they have to repay that debt, they're saddled, they're harnessed, they're whatever, they will never be able to run at capacity. did they plan on coming on whatever day to present their budget?
I'm not sure. That would be up to April. Were they planning to come on December 9th?
That's because traditionally, like in the past, Launchpad has not brought their budget forward as part of these proceedings.
They basically come back and say how they're using our 100,000 and how it's working out for them.
But I believe we did see a budget last year, and perhaps to Counselor Cable's point, it's no different than, it's like a grant to an organization. Anybody who's over a certain dollar amount has to provide to us their budget, that type of thing. So it would, it's obviously not obvious. It would be the right thing to do to have them provide a budget accordingly.
Counselor Cable, then Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Worship. And in our preliminary budget discussions to date, it was never assumed that Launchpad was getting 100,000 and not paying back the debt. Like, it's always been the assumption that we would be running off of this 100,000 minus the third of the loan repayment. So I think when Julia came, was the numbers that she was referencing, was the fact that the debt payment would be in there, at least for that first portion of the debt repayment.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just, to say that we haven't increased, I think is a bit misleading, because we agreed to that in-kind services that we're giving them, and what the value of that was in that $37,000 a year. So, we have been quite supportive over the last term of council, I think, and maybe it wasn't a hard dollar increase, but we have been very supportive.
So I think we had another option put on the table there. Say that again, Chris. Put the 100,000.
Just leave the 100,000 in the budget that's already there. Don't make any changes and wait for their budget to come to you to show you how they're going to move forward. And at that point, you decide, yep, 100,000, but you're still paying back your loan, and show me how you're going to get out of debt. At that point, you can't ask them not to have a deficit in 2025 because it's huge already. You're already at $111,000 between the loan that's outstanding and the previous 2023 and current 2024 deficits that are happening.
Counselor Hawking.
Could we have a fourth option, Chris, where we do it? No, just to do exactly what you just said, give them the 100,000, have them present their budget, and then say, we're going to wipe your outstanding debt, so that you have until December 31st of 2025 to prove to us that you're a viable entity and there will be no deficit. I guess I'm just summarizing what Her Worship had said.
Through your worship, for this 2025 budget for our purposes, we need to know if you're reducing the 100,000 to some other amount. That's all we need for this right now, and how you decide to deal with their debt. You can deal with as they present their budget to you and what their next steps. Maybe they give you a 5-year projection where they're going to be if everything is the way it should be. That's a possibility as well.
To get a vote on the table, I'd like to make a motion that we carry on with the $100,000 municipal contribution to the Launchpad for 2025.
Okay. We're not voting today, but we're giving direction, right? Okay, so a show of hands in favor of Counselor Hawking's suggestion, direction. 1, 2, 3. So that does not carry.
What's the alternative?
Counselor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. I would still like to see some parameters around this before we're committing to a dollar value. So I'm hoping that we will see a budget and see some targets before I will commit to a dollar value.
Chris, what's that do to the budget?
Okay, as it stands, we have 100,000 sitting in there already. That's all already part of the EDC budget. So I'm not changing that until you guys make a decision. So right now, there's no changes to this at this point in time until December 9th or whichever date you wish to let us know. So right now I show about $204,500 in savings with all these cuts that you've made so far. Well, there's still another one that you have to talk about. I'm just saying, as of right now, this is what I have.
So that's from the list, the start of the list. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would make, you know, I listened to all of the conversation here. I still think that we need to honor the agreement that we made and that we need to show some direction here. So I'm even willing to back off to say it's $95,000 this year. And then taking what Councillor Cable has said is they need to come back to us with a very detailed report of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But we do send the message that we have high expectations and it allows us to move forward here. So I would recommend a $95,000. Thank you.
And Chris, you've got 100,000 in there right now.
Correct, your majesty, I was gonna say. I usually say your honor. So that would be a $5,000 savings that you're requesting me to put in right now. If everyone is in agreement to reduce that from 100 to 95.
Along with the budget coming with details. All right, we're getting close to the end here. We can all feel it. What's your wishes on this? Okay, Councillor Fleet? You can't? No?
I think Warren's original 80,000 was a little stronger message than 95.
I think the message is pretty strong right now. Doesn't matter what we, I think the message is strong. So you're not in favor of Deputy Mayor Dickert's to 95,000. Like, we're not voting, we're just giving. Yeah. Councillor Cable? You're,
I really didn't want to commit to a number until we see the budget and I really didn't want to commit to a number until we see the budget and the targets, but I think 95 is moving in the right direction.
and Councillor Sacco?
Yes.
Okay. Three, and I am in favor of the 95, but there's nothing to say on December 9th or whatever day we're meeting that 95 is the number, if that's your concern. It could be 100, it could be less. It's going to depend on the figures that come with the budget and discussion and whatever. So we're giving Chris direction to go in at 95,000. We're saving 5 on this budget right now. Okay. All right, we are almost there. That's good. We'll keep working at this. So, all right, Sherry, one more, is it? Or a couple more?
Yeah, just one more, and I think I have a couple of stragglers here, I would call them. So the next one on the list is number 37, and it's all departments. That is a suggestion that you could consider decreasing the non-union wage increase from 3% to 2%. 3% being the cost of living, that would save approximately $51,000. The only thing that I would say here is, again, 2% is the cost of living. We do have our, I forget what achievement policy it relates to, but it does follow our policy going with cost of living increase. And the only other thing that I would say is that we are doing a 2025 market analysis next year. So sometimes when you don't keep pace with cost of living, you can end up having more impacts with a market survey than if you were to have kept pace with cost of living increases. So that's what I would say in general for that one, but open to comments or where you wish to go with this one.
Who's going to start?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is just a question to Sherry. Has that been discussed with your department heads or?
You mean reducing?
Yes,
It was one of the items on the list for a list.
so it came from the staff?
Probably came from Sherry, CAO,
Okay,
correct?
well, listen, I think it's noble that you're making that suggestion. All I can say is thank you.
Counselor Cable?
Thank you, Worship. Just wondering, I assume we would know what our union increases are for next year?
Yes, they are, they're as per the collective agreement. I think it's 1.7 for 2020. Melissa will be able to, she probably has the union agreement open in front of her. I don't. I'm guessing, I shouldn't say guessing, I have a good idea, but is it 1.7 for 2025?
It's for QP 2% and then other external unions are otherwise. And in case it's helpful, the HR world, municipal world does kind of collect and stay in touch each year on what's being proposed or approved in upcoming budgets for other municipalities. And that is ranging for everyone that's responded so far. And that does include both some comparators we've used in the past as well as additional municipalities. 2.5 to 3.5.
Is it normal that union and non-union are different?
It has been of recent years. Chris can probably suggest how long that's been the case, and even Melissa, but recent years, there has been variance between non-union and union. However, there were many years prior to that where whatever the union got, non-union got. But I think we're in a different kind of realm of cost of living impacts accordingly. So Chris, perhaps you have some further comment.
It all occurred when we changed to that policy, when we would award up to Grove, and they put a policy in place so that it wouldn't be, you're gonna follow this one, you're gonna follow that, because the union argued that they were doing all the work and then we were getting the benefits of it. So that's where it came up to be, that it should be based on the CPI. And if I'm not mistaken, it was June, right? CPI in June.
It's presently June. Prior to that, it was October, but that didn't align well with budget time. So we did switch to June at our last policy update.
And we even deferred from that policy a couple years ago when it should have been 6% and we only went for 2%. Whereas your police are continually getting increases and they're at 5%. Just saying, it doesn't look good if you give one area 5%, another one 2%, another one doesn't get anything.
Counselor Hawking?
Just for your information, we base our rental and access agreement increases on September's CPI, and it was 1.9%.
Counselor Cable?
Thank you, Worship. Melissa, what was the June CPI? Was that already stated?
3%.
Oh, 3.
You are correct, Counselor Hawking, it's 1.9, but if you go to October now, it's at 2 point something. So you have to look at the full year, like there's a lot of stuff that changes. Depends which year you want to take, which you want to take. Canada, do you want to take the Ontario one? Depends on which province is up or down. So that's why we took the policy based on what it was, so that it wouldn't be 1 year, I'm going to do this one, next year I'm going to do that one, next year we're going to do this one. This one was all set as part of the policy. And then it was anything that was over a 2%, we would come back to council anyways, which we did. And that's when you had said, go with the 3%, because that's what June was. And that was in July.
Counselor Cable, then Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Worship. I think that if we have a policy that we've created, and we adjusted it based on the 1 year when it was very high. I know that we had it in September and I moved it back to June. And I feel like if that's our policy, then that's what we should go with. And if we're compromising somewhere in between, if we end up at a 2.5, we end up at 2.5. I guess my worry is that if we stay at 2% and save the $51,000, I think it's going to hit us just like it did a few years ago, where when we went back out for the market analysis, it came back and then we had a huge increase in 2022. So if we want to try to save it this year, it's just going to hit us next year.
Anyone want to comment to that? No? No, I was thinking of Melissa or Sherry. No.
So I am just looking, in 2021, council did provide a cost of living adjustment, that was above the current CPI, because the CPI was actually at a negative, and council still wished to provide staff with an increase at that point. The following year, for 2022, the increase provided was 1.1% lower than cost of living. And in 2023, as Chris mentioned, inflation was very high. So the adjustment that was provided was 4.9% below the cost of living. This is all for June. So as it stands, we are about 4% below the cumulative CPI from when council first changed to the June value.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with what Councillor Cable said. We have a policy. That's what we should be following.
Go ahead.
So I'm hearing consensus that this is a no.
What would the rate be if we follow the policy?
3%, which it currently is budgeted for, correct? Wasn't that what June was? June was 3%, and that's what the budget is based on currently. Okay. Okay, I had a couple of other stragglers, as I call them. The utilities, I just want to go back to Councillor Hudson's utilities, all buildings, but Chris, did we resolve that utilities overall are higher on an annual basis, or do we need to do more work on that as staff?
Through you, Your Worship, I acknowledge that our budget for 2023 was $1.328 million. Our actual ended up being $1.355 million. During the 2024 budget deliberations, we wanted to reduce that amount, so we reduced our budget by 8%. We are currently at 65% of that. So the budget that we're proposing for 2025 is still less than the 2023 amount. It's about 99% of what 2023's budget was. It's still lower, but our actuals were higher. So technically, we haven't actually put any 2% increase on since 2023 in our 2025 budget.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. What was our expected savings with the LED light project? Is that being taken into consideration there?
P&H Center, which I think you reduced that, did you not, Laura? I'm trying to remember what that amount was. Yeah, we just need to get that Parks and Rec budget. Hang on. Parks and Rec. Arena winter, arena summer. Yeah, it's kind of spread over a couple of accounts. Sorry, Laura, do you want me? I got it here. Do you want me to speak to it? Are you sure? Arena winter, as an example, what have we done there? Um. 2040, 111, 2040. Yeah, like we've reduced it a little bit. Deputy Mayor Dickert, not a lot, because we do need to almost live that a little bit. Because as much as you may use less hydro, if the rates go up, it's kind of a wash, if I can say it that way, because it doesn't look like we've reduced it from budget to budget significantly. We're 71,000 plus 40,000. So this is arena winter. We budgeted 111,000 in 2024. Can somebody write those numbers down? Maybe Laura or Chris? And 111,000. And for 2025, we are budgeting 72.4. 111.8. So we've only budgeted an additional $800 there, but then we have to go to arena summer as the two, and we've reduced that. Oh, wait. Oh, well, interestingly enough, arena summer, we didn't budget any hydro in 2024. So we've perhaps made a correction in 2025. Either that or that's just a typo and didn't show up on the 2024 amount, Chris. Yeah, so, yeah,
But
we've had
keep in
to,
mind, as I've said, hydro, water, and gas have all gone up in price, but our budget isn't higher than 2023 is. So you're talking 4% more that should be there based on our actuals from 2023, and we're not even budgeted for that amount for the whole of 2025. So I think you're grasping at straws, putting 2,000 here, 5,000 there. One area may go down. I don't see the LED being a huge impact on that. I thought the Civic Center would see a huge reduction in their hydro consumption with the new, what is that thing called? Chiller, and it hasn't done diddly squat.
so we really didn't answer your question, Deputy Mayor Dicker, but again, I think we do need to live that a little bit to experience it. Like next year, obviously, by this time, we're going to be a year in, we'll see, did it really have any impact on our hydro? And if so, we would budget accordingly for 2026.
This reminds me of your home where you buy those nice new appliances. You're gonna save $50 on this a month, and then all of a sudden the rates go up anyway, so that $50 savings still got impacted. So you didn't increase your budget, you just paid more to have this appliance than you thought you were going to do. That's how it's working out for us on all this. We think we're doing good. We do all these conservation things and the rates continue to go up and up and up.
Go
Well,
ahead,
it does help.
Deputy Mayor.
It avoids a bit of cost, and our net zero fire hall should also allow us to have some savings, I would hope. So I'm not suggesting we cut it, but I'm just suggesting maybe there's enough changes there to absorb the inflationary effect of increasing prices.
Okay, very good. What's left, Sherry?
Oh, sorry. So that was a no. I think just the whole splash pad center of excellence, that's really going to like that picking and choosing which pieces of those center of excellence things happen. That's really going to have to be once we see that RFP come in, which would really be after the fact of budget, when potentially December 9th, we're coming back with, hopefully ratification of budget. Or as Chris said, what was your suggestion earlier with that the additional fundraising we know will offset the amount borrowed, but we could move the COE items, that 59.8 amount. What was your suggestion there? That we move it to be
It
interim
could-
borrowing, right?
Yes.
Wasn't it?
It could
But
go
you then
into
have-
borrowing.
But
and
then you have a 2026.
that
hit.
59.8 then goes to operations. So you're basically just switching it from capital to operations. It will be a savings, 59,800 in the overall budget. But all you've done is taken that money and moved it from capital to operations, which is still less than the previous year.
So I think our suggestion would be you leave it as it is now, and once you get that RFP come in, you accordingly determine if there's some further savings that way.
Thoughts? That's all right. We'll wait for the RFP. Deputy Mayor Dicker?
That's what I was just gonna say. I'm okay with waiting until the RFP comes in and we can make a final decision then.
Okay, there was one more that I got received by text message. This is not on any list, and no, I have not cleared this with, or not cleared, but got input from other staff. But in the council area, there is the annual recognition piece, which is for the volunteers and the staff at Christmas time. We send the volunteers a chamber bucks, those on our council appointed committees. And as you know, we provide a social event and a appreciation gift to all town staff at Christmas time. That is approximately $11,500 cost. Council could choose to reduce that, eliminate it if you wish, or keep as is.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'd prefer to keep that as is.
We had nodding heads here. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so
That's the list, Chris. Da-da-da-da-dum, drum roll. What's
Drum
the
roll.
total?
Do you need to know? You have
yeah,
a savings of 209,500. Maybe we could go through just by function, just so we're on the same page. I have $8,300 savings for the general government. That was reductions in professional development and the $5,000 reduction, keeping the doctor recruitment at the 90,000. Okay, I hear yawns. For protection, we're at 90,000. 10,000 was fire department, reduce what you need to get you to the 10,000 reduction. Police gave us 70 and Andrew was increasing 10,000 on budget, building permits. For transportation environmental, Ron gave us $9,000. That was all the machinery outside. We did review the winter materials. We did review the garbage recycling surplus, and we did talk about increasing bag tags. None of that passed. Recreation and culture, that's another big one here, 67,200 to date that I know of. Defer the picnic table, remove the top dressing, reduce that still by 20,000. Reduce the capital by 20,000 for the bottle filling. Reduce the aquafit cart, 1,100, reduce the training by 2,100. Day camp programs, increase the revenue by 5,000. Remove the senior expo grant, but add revenue that was missed, so that's a $3,400 savings. Cancel the community guide printing, you'd reduce that to 2,500. And then so far the library, we have 8,000. So that's a total of 67,200 for rec and culture. And then EDC, you remove the cultural plan of 20,000, you reduce the downtown revitalization plan by 10,000 and reduce the launchpad support by 5,000. Total of 209,500 makes our new revised levy of 9,861,300 or an increase of 8.34%. That works out to $87.05 a year for every 100,000, $725 a month, 24 cents a day. Keep in mind that 50% of that 8.34% is all police.
Sorry, I just want to add to that. If you recall, Mayor Sue did ask the library to try and get that to 20,000. So there's another additional 12,000 potentially. And Laura is to come back with some possible pool program reduction, more details for council to decide, which we would bring back on December 9th. So
Yes, further to that, that's about 38,900 for the pool. That was closing on Sunday for June. Closed pool Sundays effective March 1st, 2025 for 30,100, or did that get ex-nayed?
no, there was
And the
closed
5,700 to reduce the lane swim.
there was the Sundays, July and closed pool for Sundays for June, closed pool Sundays effective March 1st, and the reduced one morning lane swim per week. Those three are the ones that Laura's looking into further. Chris, could you repeat those numbers just one more time? 8.34% means what?
Is a levy increase of 758,900, so it's 8.34%. Works out to $87.05 for every 100,000 assessment. Or 24 cents a day for every 100,000. Keep in mind, if you're 300,000, that's 3 times, so almost 75 cents. 87.05 a year. For every 100,000 that we're at right now. But of that, over 50% of that increase is $43.52 of that 87.05 is accountable to the police, even after they gave us the 70,000 reduction.
I'm just saying for a person who has assessment of $500,000, it'd be 400 and some thousand, $100 a year increase. $435 actually.
Okay, so we look forward to the next one. All right, we do not have any correspondence. We do not have a closed meeting, so we can adjourn at 7 o'clock. I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Hawking and Deputy Mayor Dickert. Can I take your name on that one? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Well done. Thanks to staff.